Hi, Amanda. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Belinda?
I'm doing really well. Thank you for joining me.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
I'm here with Amanda Schenkenberger, and she is the founder of Homeschooling Family Legacy. I'm going to start with your bio. Amanda Schenkenberger is a former homeschooled girl turned homeschool mom of four boys, and she helps moms go from chaos to unshakable confidence so their family can experience freedom while having fun without ruining their child's future. She leverages her own experience as a homeschooled individual and homeschooling mother of four inside her homeschool programs with Homeschool Family Legacy, where she coaches other moms to educate curious minds and cultivate courageous spirits. Excellent.
And I always like to point out that courageous spirit we're cultivating is inside mama, not necessarily inside the kiddo, because it takes a lot to be able to get out there and to homeschool and to keep on taking, all the steps to educate our children well, because it's not just a mind thing, it's a heart thing.
It really is. And it does take courage because of the programming that we grew up in. Because you've mentioned before in the masterclass, that the free masterclass that you offer on your website, that back in the day, people are just natural learners and
Yeah.
children just learn just by being. And then the education school system, public school system was started sometime in the 1800s. And then now, because it's been around for so long, we've just sort of fell in line, right? And our kids go to school, and that's the only way they're going to learn. And now it takes courage to take a step back and say, actually, no, that's not how they learn. It's not how they best learn.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
we can do things differently.
Yeah, absolutely.
And really, I mean, I invited you on because I see your posts in our Facebook group. I think it might be like homeschooling, Oregon Homeschooling Education Network or something like that.
Mhm.
And I feel like what you offer is a bridge for those parents that are a little bit fearful because mostly what you get when you tell somebody, my child's homeschooling or my child's not in school, they freak out and they're like, well, what about their math and what about their reading and la la la, right? And so your specialty is that.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
love that.
And I mean, it's fun. I love to take joyful, connected learning and blend it with rigorous academics. And, rigorous academics looks different for different families. But, it's really when we give our children space and time that they need to learn, and it's particularly interest driven, our kids excel in these, subjects that are really stifled and boxed in a traditional school environment. Like, I truly believe as homeschool moms, we can provide a better than private school experience for our children. And for example, my oldest, he is a science nerd. He's like, I'm super nerdy. I love science. And this last year, he's 11. This last year, he took a high school science biology course because that's what he loves. And he got like a B average in it. But he's 11. And so this year, he is taking a college prep science course because that's like what he wants to do. And he has the time and space in all of the other subjects. He's at least a grade ahead in, if not two grades ahead. And his reading comprehension is through the roof. And this is just because we've cultivated an environment that he feels like, well, what I want to pursue is valuable. And we give him the resources to do it, and then he can just take off with it. So, when I say rigorous academics, some parents go, "Oh, I don't want to force school down my kid's throat," and that's not what we're talking about. When we give our kids the tools they need to learn, and it's paired with their passions, they just naturally take off. Especially when they have so many hours of the day for free time, they just they just do. And so, obviously, there's some requirements of okay, we're going to choose books over screens, some guidance there. But for the most part, you just work with them with what their interests are, and they'll just dive deeply into it.
And what's interesting about that is, you're not the first story about how your child is 11 and now taking a college course. I just interviewed Dr. Edith Ubuntu, and she's talking about how her 8-year-old was doing like 8th grade math, right? And so if you look at the way that the school system currently operates, right, you're not allowing a child to take advantage of their interests, and you're forcing them to take to enter into subjects that might not light them up, right? And so
Mhm.
what you end up getting is this this dampening of interest in all things,
Mhm.
right? And you're also sending the message that what you believe in, what lights you up, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, we
Yeah.
cannot overlook that's the theme
Mm.
of school as it is.
Yeah, and it's so much about, like, if you look at just career-wise, who gets paid the most? Well, it's somebody who's a specialist. It's not somebody who has this generalized knowledge that you learn in school. It's somebody who's dive deeply into a subject and knows it intimately. Why is the school not like modeling that? It's here, learn a little bit of everything. We hope you're good at it. And then the kids who are ready to exceed and go a little faster, maybe a lot faster, they get bored, they tune out, maybe they turn into troublemakers. Or on the other side, a kid needs more support, but there's way too many children inside the classroom for that one-on-one connection to help them begin to thrive and grow their confidence. And so I'm like, unless you have a bell curve child, which I have not met, that average kid, you're not, it's not serving them in a way that values learning and the pursuit of passions, and that really honestly teaches them that, hey, it's okay to spend a lot of hours learning about this one thing that you think is really cool.
Right, right. And also, let's not forget that when we spend hours learning something that we're completely interested in and we get to dive into it and be part of it, we come up with better solutions
Yeah.
also as we come across along the line, right? And also, when you talk about, the school system teaching just like a bunch of things that people learn, right? But they're not teaching a bunch of things that are valuable,
Yeah.
like electricians or plumbing or building or cooking or gardening. There's so many things that are done with the hands that, with this knowledge, you can do anything. You can build a house, you can, do all kinds of things. But the subjects that you're learning a little bit of in school really can't take you that far out in the world if you were just to be dropped somewhere and given resources. Biology is not going to get you anywhere. Physics is not going to get you anywhere. Even history, world history, that's really, you just, it's a bunch of useless knowledge that you're taking with you.
Mm.
To be honest, if we really just dive down and think about what our kids are learning,
Mhm.
it's not getting you very far at all.
Yeah. Yeah, unless they have a passion for it and then they have an intrinsic motivation to change something within that field. Like, I don't want anybody teaching my kid that doesn't love what they're teaching. I don't know. I went to public high school, and I remember clearly this teacher was just there to like be a coach, just a sports coach. And it was history, and he's reading to us from the textbook. We're in high school. I'm pretty sure this is my sophomore or junior year. And I was so mad. I was like, I can read. Why are you reading this to me? Oh, it's because you don't lesson prep and you don't care about actual history. You just want to coach kids. Right. Got it. Thanks for the wasted hour every single day of the week.
Right. Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
sorry, I get a little mad when I think back about it.
Yes, of course. Right? Because you had that ability to jump in and be like, no, this doesn't make sense. You didn't spend the whole first, what, 13 years of your life already in school and just not questioning anything.
Yeah.
and just be like, this is what we need to do in order for us to get a job, in order for us to make an income so that we can build a life because we
Right.
don't know anything else because we're all average.
We're all average. That's do you want, like, honestly, we need to educate, like, ask ourselves, do we want average children? Yes, I just want my child to have an average life. Okay, go ahead, keep them in public school because that's what it's producing. It's producing workers. It's not necessarily producing thinkers. And if you want a child who's a thinker who questions things, you're going to have to remove them from the environment that squelches questions, or like, don't talk unless you raise your hand. Like, well, what if, so it's just, it's in a completely like different mindset shift. And I feel like a lot of parents are, the lights are starting to turn on, especially where we live, Belinda, because statistically, Oregon is one of the worst states that ranks educationally. It's like, even if you are in the best part of the state that has the best school, it's still like, we're like 45th or below for like worst state on the education, like test scores, reading levels. We are not a good state to send your kids to public school with. And so if you really think about that and you really want their future to look different than that bell curve future, then we've got to remove them from an environment that they spend 8 hours a day and 5 days a week because it's really molding and shaping them. And homeschooling is honestly so easy. There's a time commitment that makes it challenging, but it's so easy. And I think we overcomplicate it and we psych ourselves out because, oh, I'm not educated to do this. I'm not a teacher, or how would I figure out my schedule? Like, okay, well, we can work together and figure it out. It's figure outable is what it is. I mean, there's so many tools and resources out there to be able to do this. We just, at the end of the day, we really have to ask ourselves, what do I want to give my children? And really, what is our family legacy? What's our family legacy? And if public school isn't producing it, then what will?
Right. And what I love about what you offer, because I have read over several of the testimonials that are on your website, and what I love about it is when a family works with you, it's totally personalized and customized. So while there are plenty of websites out there that you can jump on and maybe lead yourself through some curriculums and get some guidance, right? If you are really struggling and you can't seem to figure out how to make this natural learning happen for your child and your family dynamics,
Mhm.
this is where your business comes in. Amanda comes in and she will do a deep dive into your family dynamics, what your goals are, how you guys operate in this family constellation, and you offer solutions and you handle them. That's incredible.
Yeah, and it's really fun too. Yeah, I love working with families one on one, getting to know the names of their kids and like the different, like you're saying, these family dynamics. Because what usually comes up if a family is wanting to homeschool or is homeschooling and they're just having a hard time, typically the moms I work with, it comes down to two things. One is mom doesn't have a time management system. And let's look at what mom came out of the public school system that says, show up here. I'm going to spoon feed you everything. You can leave. And then when you go home, here's a whole bunch of busy work. And then come back in the next day and we'll do it over. So you have literally probably spent most of your life never managing your own time. And now, as a homeschooler, you're expected to not only manage your time well, but help little chaos people sit down and do a little learning and have a structure to your day. And
Yeah.
it's really challenging if you have never practiced that before, because this gets into our executive functions, which a lot of moms just, again, not used. Some moms that I'm working with, they're starting to discover maybe I have ADHD. Maybe that's my struggle. So we're becoming self-aware a lot because we lack time structure. So I introduce a time management system to help moms. So when we get that in order, then the second thing we usually have to work on is the relationship dynamics, or really working on ourselves. So many moms, not just homeschool moms, but we are very self-condemning, and we have a lot of mom guilt, and we're not enough, we're not doing enough, and so then we're doing all these extra things that really aren't creating what we want, but we think is going to solve the problem. When if we just pause a moment and we look inward and we're like, oh, I get to work on me, and I get to be invested in, and I get to grow. When we work on the schedule and then we have time to work on ourselves, those are the two biggest things that are barriers for homeschool moms, because everything else, again, it's all figure outable. It's just a matter of self-awareness and having a time management system that works for you. And then there are so many great tools out there for educating your kids and so many great approaches. And you get to find which one fits your family's values the best.
Yeah, so I mean, this is my first time interviewing a homeschooled person who now homeschools, right? So, do you think that this home educating journey has been easier for you because you had child-led interest and curriculum modeled for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because I went to public high school and I also went to college. When I started homeschooling my own kids, I did all the same things that all the same mistakes that homeschool moms make. Because I had the last frame of reference I had in my mind was a traditional school like model. And I'm like, oh, I'm trying to do all of, like, with my preschooler. I'm like, okay, we're gonna spend 3 hours doing this and 2 hours doing this, and it's all like book work, and that's not a great way to homeschool. If that's what you're trying to do, it's so much more simple. Right now, my kindergartner, we spent 10 minutes doing book work today. That's all we spent. But I was trying to copy the public school and do that at home. Then I remembered why I wanted to homeschool, and that starts at my public school journey, when I was actually terrified to go into public school because I had very little formal learning previous to going into public school. And my family, they were the dynamics. My parents divorced, and so a lot of things fell to the side, and it was a really hard season. And so I went into public school, and I was like, these kids have been trained their whole lives to excel academically, and I've been playing on horses, I've been climbing trees, I've been playing with dogs. Like, that was my childhood. And then I get there, and the first quarter they post grades, and I'm at the top of most of my classes. And I'm like, wow, I can live outside for my entire childhood and then come in here and school all these kids. They've been changed to the desks their whole lives. What have they been doing while I was out playing in a tree? And then I realized I know a better way to learn. I'm not sending my kids here. And that was, so many years ago, when, I mean, it was always a public school model, but I felt like there was a little bit more effort put into the education, so I had that realization as a young girl, a young teenager, and I knew that, oh, that's right. I want a completely different educational model than in public school. And when I made that shift, things got a lot easier for us with homeschooling.
But isn't that so interesting that you literally only went to public school for 4 years of high school and then you went to college, which
Mm.
I guess another 4 years, right?
Us too.
Okay, 2 years. So that's
Community college.
6 years, right? 6 years of your life. And yet it was so impactful
Yeah.
that you tried to model the system when you
Mhm.
first started homeschooling your kid. That's nuts.
Yeah. And I had already made the decision within that first semester of going to public school of homeschooling my own children, because I saw it. And it was like it had been wiped from my memory. Like, hey, you didn't learn how to do long division and you're okay.
That's
Now I know how
crazy.
to do it. I've had to teach two kids. But it wasn't until I was in my 30s that I learned. But I do my taxes. Everything works out well.
You only need long division to do your taxes. Just
You
a
don't, no, you don't.
math.
But, I've got all the necessary life skills and I never learned long division. When I was younger, I have no idea about anything history. Like I could not name a single date and I'm a thriving adult. So
Same.
there's so many things that I was like, wow, that was a waste of time. Hmm.
Right. Right. Why do we need that information? I mean, especially now that we have the little black box that tells us everything. Can we just do more meaningful things?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
So, your specialty is academics, like we said. And oftentimes, when we are talking about homeschooling, unschooling, rigorous academics doesn't go along with that, right? It's like the the opposite attracting magnet, right?
Mhm.
So, what does this look like? Rigorous academics in unschooling,
Yeah.
in natural learning.
Natural learning. Yeah, and that really does come back to the interest-based learning. Now, I was unschooled as a kid, but I'm a type A personality, and I had wished I had a little bit more structure myself. And so I provide a little more structure in our homeschooling, our family environment. So I'm like, hey, you guys, you do need some life skills with math. We do math. And my kids, my two oldest are better at math than I am and they actually really enjoy it. And me and math, we will never be friends, but we get along enough for, balancing the budget and such. Um, so, but they they value learning is the thing. They see the value of learning and we talk about there'll be things that come up and they might not grasp it. And I'm like, plotting those data points right now, it'll come up again. It's okay. Like we don't if you don't get it this moment, we can move on. And we don't need to have all these struggles and all these tears over whatever this subject is. But one of the things I really want my kids to know is number one, that learning is valuable. And so we don't treat it flippantly. We have a privilege of learning, and we're going to treat it like it's something sacred and it's a get to. And not only is it a get to, but like we can go deep on your passions. Like I've got one kiddo who just loves to be outside. He just loves to be, he will make you a fort worth living in. Just because that's his passion. And then I've got my oldest who's a nerd. My other one, we're still figuring out his passions. He, likes Mario a lot. He's really good at quoting things. He's a really fast learner. So we're still figuring it out. And then of course the 4-year-old, he loves birds, just all the birdies, and he'll point them out. And I'm like, oh, you've got eagle eyes, but number one, they understand that learning is valuable. And then not just that, but what they want to learn about is valuable. It's not just learn these random things. It's this thing you want to learn about. It's valuable to pour your time into it. It's worthy of your time. And you know what? When you learn about something deeply, it actually makes you a better contributor to society and our family. And then you can begin changing things that you feel are wrong or you feel are injustices, or you feel like, hey, this could be done better. You can start changing those because you have a depth of knowledge that empowers you to do that. And then they feel empowered and they feel like they contribute and what they care about matters. And that really does change a child's perspective of learning. Not that, okay, well, now you're done with math, shut the book, move on to social studies. Oh, bell went off, shut the book, move on to this subject that you care nothing about. Shut the book, move on to the next subject. That they see that learning is valuable, what they want to learn about is valuable, and that they actually matter and can contribute.
Right. That is the key point, is that they know that they matter. Because essentially, when they are just a cog in the wheel, being shuttled around from class to class, and if certain topics don't resonate with them, you know, they don't matter. And when you're not listening to that,
Yeah.
it makes you feel like you don't matter.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about rigorous academics and they're following their passions, you're also just sort of saying, okay, well, this is necessary. Let's do some math workbooks. If you do it for 5 minutes, if you do it for 20 minutes, whatever lights you up.
Mhm.
And then when you're done, you're done. And then we're on to something else. It's just that, like, these are the fundamentals that I'd really like you to learn.
Yeah. Yeah. And that
Mhm.
really comes from my own experience. A lot of what I know um, now as an adult, a lot of it was hard won. Like my writing skills that I have now, it was really hard won. That was something that my parents didn't spend a lot of time on. And that was their choice. And again, there's nothing wrong with that approach. But now seeing what I'm doing and the way like I serve the world, oh, those writing skills are actually really important, and speaking is really important. And so for me, I can do them now, but oh my gosh, if you had read my writing from 10 years ago, nobody would want to read it. So, looking at the way I contribute to the world now, I wish I had more of that blended in to my homeschooling,
Mhm.
but not like here, write a paper on Roman history, and I'm like, I don't care about Roman history, you know? I actually
Right.
remember, I remember in my, I think it was my sophomore English class. I was learning about Spanish. I was learning in Spanish about Mexico and Catholicism and how Catholicism is a little bit different because it's a blend of the culture, the Mexican culture and the Catholic culture. And I remember going to my teacher and I was like, "Can I write my essay on Mexican Catholicism?" And she was like, is it different than regular Catholicism? And I said, yes. And I started telling her, and she was like, it's yes, you can go ahead. But I was excited. I was
Mhm.
excited to write about it. Even though it was some off topic, she was very sweet. But I was excited to write and dive deeply into research. And I think that's the key part of um, our lifestyle now is that we need to be good at researching. And so
Yes.
one thing that aids to that is learning to write essays for topics that we actually enjoy.
Yeah. So now that I'm listening to you describe this sort of natural learning journey, um, I'm 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 comparing it to parenting because parenting, like natural parenting, takes a little bit of being the authority, right? But you're not squashing your child. It's not, authoritarian so
Yeah.
much, but you are this tiny human's guide. And so we guide them so that they're safe in their becoming. And it's not
Mhm.
just kind of like free flowing parenting, child led, do whatever you want. Like they want to do everything. Sure, you do it. It's not that. It's
Mhm.
that we give them the basics, we give them the tools. And so this parenting journey, I mean, this homeschooling journey with the academics built in is that as well. There's
Mhm.
basics that I'd like you to learn. I'm not forcing you to learn it. You'll get to it when you get to it. There's no age limit to it. There's not time limit to it. It's just these are the things that we'll get to, and you'll learn these things, and you'll get to it when you get to it um as you're reveling in your passion, in
Yeah.
what you're interested in. And whenever you find what you're interested in, we can do all these things and it'll just be in there. So it's sort of having, like, as a parent, having a high level of like, these are the things that I want to make sure they learn. And then when they get to it is when they get to it. And certainly there are going to be times where you're like, oh, we just baked a cake. And so they just learn fractions.
Yeah.
Right? And so, oh, okay, so they know that, and fractions are important to learn, and
Mhm.
writing is important to learn. So if they're at a certain age and you're like, hey, why don't you do some research on where to get the best, whatever kind of animal you want, and what kind of, how to best raise them, do that research. How about you write us something about what you feel? And then
Mhm.
you have it baked in that way.
Yeah. Yeah, right now, like my oldest, he's getting ready to write like a how-to. Um, and he's 11 and he wants to write the essay on how to talk to your crush. I was like, that's a great essay. I love it. I
I
can't wait to
love
hear
it.
it.
Amazing. And also, can we talk about how because he feels safe in the container of home, that he can write that?
Yeah,
Because if he were in a classroom situation, he probably wouldn't bring that up because everybody would laugh at him.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Maybe his crush,
yes, yeah, right. She could be in the room.
right? Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what he begins writing about. Yeah, I mean, and it's just so fun, and he's excited to write about it, and there's lots he can write about it, and so, taking something that's a very relevant topic for him and his friends. Um, and he's very, scientific and he loves philosophy, which is not my jam. Um, he's just gonna blend those things together, and I just can't wait to see what he creates.
I can't wait either. You'll have to share it with me if he doesn't mind.
I'll have to ask him first, but yes.
Exactly. If you get to support them, I would love to do it too. All right, I want to read one of the testimonials that stood out to me. When I first found Amanda, I was burnt out and anxious about homeschooling. Amanda's first call with me gave me a tinge of hope, but my anxiety would have none of it. I truly didn't believe anyone could or would help me. Amanda didn't give up on me. She kept her word to help and knocked down any excuses my anxiety and family situation came up with. Her "you got this" attitude and "let's figure out what works for your family" ideas changed my outlook for the homeschooling new year. It started well, and I had the strength to face and tackle my hormonal anxiety issues. I recommend Amanda's homeschool program over anything out there. So, give us a quick overview of what is the commitment that you offer to a client?
Yeah, so what I am that person who I'm like, I like the underdog stories, right? I'm like, if I speak and you feel that twinge of hope when I speak, then we might be a good fit because I really, not that I like that you're in like an overwhelmed, hard place, but because I've been there and I know there's a way through. And I want to help you find that for you because it looks a little different from me, but my story can inspire you to think outside the box and to not think that you have to remove yourself from the situation of homeschooling in order to get better. Homeschooling is really it's such a blessing because it's a catalyst for your healing and your family's healing. All of like the triggers that you might experience as a homeschool mom, you, number one, will have the most opportunity to walk through those triggers actively every single day than you will in any other situation. And number two, you have the highest motivation that you will ever have in the world, which is your children. Because so many of us as moms would never do this for ourselves. But you know what? I'll do it for my kids. So I think homeschooling is this beautiful journey of us becoming self-aware and doing it in tandem with our family, and then offering how like learning and how to enhance learning for them as unique people. Like I teach moms how to become students of their children so that they can tailor each experience for their kids because everyone's different. Like that testimonial you read from Anne, she's got one kiddo who's severely dyslexic. The other one isn't. And then the other one's really small. But what her dyslexic son is going through is different than what her son who doesn't have dyslexia is going through. And so really becoming a student and helping really be that guide like you were talking about, helping moms walk through their emotional experience so they can rise higher and become that guide for their child. And so that's what I want to see in homeschool moms. And so working with me, I've designed a program that helps you do that. It's a 90-day program. So we work together for 90 days as a cohort. So you're not like the only mom. Like today we had our meeting and I was like, who else doesn't feel like a fun mom? And everybody raises their hands. I don't feel like a fun mom. Um, So we do this as a community, we do this as a group, and then we're also talking privately so that, if you have a bit of a different experience or you don't feel comfortable sharing or everybody else says they get it and you're like, I don't get it, we could talk one-on-one. I mean, then every child is unique, so let's talk about this kid and this kid and all that to say is I don't give up on people because of like I know what it's like to be given up on, but I know that if you don't give up, you can't fail. You just can't. Like, if you don't give up, you can't fail. So we're not going to give up on you. And as long as we're like working together, and if we're not working together, I'm still reaching out to you like, hey, how's it going? There's one mom we talk on and off every few months, and she's had some health issues and going back and forth between homeschooling and different programs. But all that to say is like, I think one of the beautiful things that I got from homeschooling is that when people enter my life, I don't like to let them go. And the traditional schooling programs, you see a teacher for a year and then they go away. And then all these friends are your friends for a year and then they go away. And there's no strong attachment to people because they're going to go in and out of your life. And that's, there are friends that will do that, but when you enter my world, like, hey, I've got you. And I'm like, I really like you and I really like your family. And we're going to make this work for you. I just have this, my friends like to call like fierce love. And they also call me delightfully badgering. And so I just provide a delightfully badgering, accountable experience for you. So I love hard. And when you enter into my program, I really do genuinely care. And I want to see your family move along that homeschooling vision that you have for them and taking those steps to help you raise them a little bit higher, get a little closer, create that experience for them a little bit more every day.
You're basically elevating humanity
Yes.
with your service. So thank you.
Well, thanks. I mean, it, it's like I would do it for free. It's what I was made to do in this world. And I think my unique experience as a child, not just obviously being homeschooled has helped me, but like that mindset and that perspective of I got to learn me before I had to learn somebody else's system, a way of doing things that makes me so good at this.
That's a really good point that you bring up, that you got to learn about yourself before you moved on into the world, which is really, really important because I find that in these times we are we are coming across so many people, adolescents and on, that don't know who they are.
Yeah.
And this is why we had the problems that we're entering to the problems that we are having these days, right? A lot of confusion, a lot of blaming, a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah.
And, you know, we are what we've created.
Yeah.
And we're moving out of it now, thanks to people like you.
Yes. Yeah. No, my life vision is to transform the face of education in America. Right now, it's one homeschool
With
family at a
everyone
time.
else.
Yes. And I'll get there for everyone else.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much. I mean, this is what's needed. Now, tell me, do you have like top advice, maybe like 3 or 4 things that you would want to share with somebody who is thinking about taking their kid out of school? They, but they just don't know if they can do it. What
Yeah.
would be your top 3?
Top three. So number one is you don't have to be as patient as you think you do. A lot of moms are like, oh, I don't know how you do it. I can barely be around my kid for the summer. And I'm like, well, it's definitely a shift. There's definitely some different expectations and a different way of living. But a lot of people think they have like, oh, you must be a saint. And I'm like, mm-mm. I snap like that sometimes, and I am not nice. The niceness is there's some moms who are like that. And like God bless them. They are
Oh,
I don't think I've
yeah.
ever heard them raise their voice, but that's not me. So you don't need as much patience as you probably think you do. Um, The second thing I would say is don't even worry about socialization. I mean, looking at the public school model, when in their life after school will they be around people who have been born within 1 year of them and nobody else? That's actually not real life. What's real life is a mix of ages and a mix of demographics and a mix of, all these different things that you probably don't get at traditional school. So the benefit is that obviously they can talk to adults and talk to friends, but that you get to help cultivate a community around them that is going to support them into growing into their best selves, rather than, well, I hope they have a good teacher this year. So,
Right.
like, hmm. um, so don't worry about socialization. You can craft and join communities that are like-minded. They are out there. And if you can't seem to find them, you can start it and you will draw those people to you. Um, that would be the second piece. And then the third piece is if you at night are worrying like, hey, if we do this thing, I'm going to ruin their future, right? This I'm gonna screw something up and they're gonna be an adult and they're not gonna know how to do a thing. And I would say that's really not possible because our kids are always learning. They just really are. And if you live with a little bit of intention and you spend a little bit of time thinking about, well, what do I want to teach my child? Even if it's not something like science, it's just how to be human. What could I do to help teach them how to be human? Maybe we should volunteer somewhere. Just in doing that, your child will begin learning what they need to succeed as a human and as a functioning, well-adjusted adult who contributes to society. And they, as far as the academics go, there are more resources than you can wrap your head around to help you do that. So you don't even have to worry about that. But as long as you are an intentional parent working on, okay, I want to raise this kind of human being, they're going to learn very valuable things from you. So there's no need for worry. Step into it slowly. And if you're like wanting to meet, I do free, 15-minute consultations, and we can talk about next best steps for you to help decrease that anxiety and get you going in the right direction.
Right. I love those three pieces of advice, and I would add one thing is, I have read before that if you are pulling your child out of a school system, you would give them 1 month for every year that they've been in that system,
Yeah.
decompressing. And so when you're talking about don't be nervous, don't that you won't have patience. When you pull your child out of school, know that they're going to need, let's say you pull them out and they're in 3rd grade. They've been going since kindergarten. That's 4 years. That's 4 months that you can just let them decompress.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you let them decompress for an entire year, they're not gonna become jellos with, like,
Yeah,
not a brain cell,
exactly.
right? Everyone can just chill out and do nothing until you figure out your next steps, and it's
Yeah.
okay. And when you do that, you're actually modeling courage
And rest.
and rest. Rest is so important.
Hmm.
I don't know how many people I've come across in this past few months where they've come down with something that's making, whether it's spraining an ankle, breaking a leg, some kind of congestion, whatever it is that's causing them to just rest.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's the beauty of homeschooling as well. The
Yeah.
natural learning, your child gets to sleep,
Yes,
and so do you.
absolutely. And I would say like that's also like even adding some time on if they've had a particularly hard time in public school, like bullying or any kind of really negative experiences, add more time onto that. That doesn't mean you don't have to have structure, because it's good to have pieces to your day, but it doesn't have to have school. It doesn't have to look anything like that. I mean, I went through a really dark time in my tweens when my parents got divorced, and I didn't have the time and space for that, entering into public school. But had it been the reverse, a lot of what I dealt with, including suicide and self-harm, would have floated away because there wasn't all this compounding pressure on top of me. And so don't don't undervalue rest.
Thank you, Amanda. Thank you so much. Did you have anything else you wanted to add before we conclude our time together?
Homeschool your kids. There you go.
Yep. Believe in natural learning. We're all natural learners.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.